I'm Oscar Crawford. Welcome to the teaching ministry of New Eden. Thank you for joining me. Today I want to talk to you about some text in the book of the Gospel of John, chapter 10. I'll be reading that to you in just a moment. Included in the presentation today, I want to talk to you about a couple of other things. One is a movie out over the weekend called Elysium. Elysium has to do with the differences between lives in poverty and lives lived in opulent wealth. I want to talk to you about that. And then I will integrate into the presentation as well the story of a photographer named Robert Knight, who once was the photographer for Stevie Ray Vaughan. And when Stevie Ray Vaughan went on a trip once, he said to him, "Look, if anything should ever happen to me, when you hear my voice, you'll know it's me." All right. Now, we'll be putting all those things together for the message today, and we're going to be talking about voice and what you're hearing. What are you hearing? Let's pray. Dear God, thank you for the privilege to share with friends and loved ones one more time. Use me in such a way that the words that come from me inspired of you, I believe inspired of you to share with friends and loved ones, that they will be words of empowerment and encouragement and affirmation and strength to keep on going, to love you, to love themselves, and to love others like they love themselves. Pray in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, I invite your attention right now to the Gospel of John, chapter 10. And I'm going to read a bit of it for you because I'd like you to hear the context of what I'm going to be sharing today. Verse 1, and I'm reading from King James, the traditional version of the Bible. Chapter 10, beginning at verse 1, and I'm probably going to read quite a few today. And they will also be on the screen for you to follow where you are. Verily I say unto you, he that entereth not by the door into the sheepfold, but climbeth up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber. But he that entereth in by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the porter openeth, the door person. The sheep hear his voice, and he calleth his own sheep by name, and leadeth them out. And when he putteth forth his own sheep, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. And the stranger will they not follow, but he will flee from him, for they know not the voice of strangers. That's key. What are the voices that you're listening to, and what are the voices that you're following? All right, this parable spoke Jesus unto them, but they did not understand the things that he was saying. Then Jesus said unto them again, Verily I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers. Pretty heavy language. All that came before me are fake. They were thieves and they were robbers. But the sheep did not hear them, meaning there had been no appropriate response from the God-level expectation of human behavior. Now listen, verse 9 and 10. I am the door. By me, if any enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out and find pasture, provision. The thief cometh not but to steal, kill, and destroy. And I have come that they might have life, and have an abundant life of provision. I am the good shepherd, and the good shepherd gives his life for the sheep. But he that is a hireling, a servant, and not the shepherd, whose own the sheep are not, seeth the wolf coming, and because he is scared, runs away, scattering the sheep. I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and am known of my sheep. As the Father knoweth me, even so I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. Now listen, this is key. This is key. This is a critical distinction between what many who believe as Christians from an exclusivist, almost supremacist point of view. This is still the voice of Jesus recorded as having spoken these words. And other sheep I have which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. Therefore doth my Father love me, because I lay down my life, that I might take it again. No one takes my life from me, but I give it of my own free will. I have power to lay it down, I have power to take it up. This commandment have I received of God. Now, I want to go over now unto, let's see, I want to go to verse 25. If you're following me, go to verse 25. Jesus answered them and said, I told you, and you believe not. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me that I am of God. But you believe not, because you are not my sheep. As I said unto you, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. My Father, which gave them to me, is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand. I and my Father are one. God's blessing upon the reading and the hearing of the Word. All right, so the questions I'm asking you today are, what voices are you listening to? Whose voice are you hearing? Whose voice are you following? Do you have the notion of having a relationship with that which is greater than you, which has caused you to be? These are the kinds of things that I want to take a look at with you for a moment. Now remember, I told you I'm going to speak to you about 2 or 3 things as I integrate them into this message. And the first one I'm going to begin with is this latest film, and I've written about it several times in the past couple of months. The name of the film is Elysium. It's a Greek term. Its origin is in Greek, and it has to do with a special place reserved for privileged people. That's the notion, that's the connotation. All right, Neil Blomkamp, whose film earlier, a few years ago, called District 9, which set the stage for people living out extreme poverty, but after invasion. And so his follow-up is going to be a blockbuster. Not funny. It's not a funny film. You may be entertained by the intellect of the script and the presentation of the casting characters. But what is laid out in the film is not funny. It is not funny. All right, so what we have is we see at the beginning of the film people who are living in really, really horrible poverty, and children can look up into the sky and see a space station orbiting the Earth. This is Elysium. This is where the privileged have retreated to, not retreated to, but gone to, because they wanted to get away from the people of poverty to have a better life. Now, I am not saying, please hear me, I am not saying that the rich and the wealthy do not have a right to live their life as they please. I am clearly saying that if the rich and the wealthy have the privilege to live out good and healthy lives and the capacity to share that with others, I clearly believe that ought to be shared. I'm not saying you got to move into people of poverty next door or have them over for dinner. But if you have access to a technology that will make life better for others, you should be about sharing that technology. So little children are looking up into the sky and they're wondering if they can ever go to Elysium because their lives are miserable. Hardly enough to eat, hardly any place to live, always in danger, always conflict surrounding them. People are fighting over very little. Now, Dr. Harry Reds, preacher, pastor of the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, and presiding officer in the California Conference of the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, once said to me some years ago, he literally believed that one day the rich and the wealthy would leave planet Earth and leave all the rest behind to fight over the hull. Are you hearing me? His prediction of Elysium was 40 years in advance of its arrival. He was predicting this in the 1970s, and we have this film now in the year 2013. Dr. Harry Reds was a seer, and he's alive and living in California now, but he saw that we are on track, that the privileged are always going to want to escape the people of poverty because they don't want to see it. They don't even want to be around people who are suffering and sick and poor, just want to get away. Now, if you need a real living example, take a look at what has happened in America since the 1960s and the notion of integration. Now, I won't spend a long time with this, I just want to make the point, and then one day I'll talk to you about how as a black man living in America, I regard integration to have literally been disintegration of communities across the nation. But when integration took place and white children and black children were then demanded to be in the same schools, meaning all black schools died, and black teachers and administrators got second-level jobs after integration. And many people who were white, not wanting to have their children involved with children who were black and other colors, moved out of urban centers into rural centers and developed other communities to establish new schools just to get away, to experience an Elysium-like context. Are you hearing me? Now, if you hear more than I'm saying, shame on you. That's not what I'm going for. I'm not going for any notions of racial prejudice or stereotypes. I'm just sharing with you the reality as it exists. When black men became mayors in the 1960s in large urban centers, then there was this notion of a thing called white flight, where white people who didn't want to be involved under that kind of leadership and that kind of community atmosphere moved and created what are now the suburbs and created their own schools and institutions, and the tax base of the urban centers eroded and went into the suburbs. And so it was said that these new black mayors couldn't provide leadership for communities because the tax base is immediately eroded. Now, you take a look at that and decide what you believe really was the picture. Do people have the right to do what they want to do that they can afford? I'm going to say to you absolutely yes, but not to the integration of other people. Are you hearing me? All right, Elysium. I encourage you to take a look at the film and then have a moment's conversation with yourself to listen. What voice are you hearing? What are you being drawn to? Most people love the idea of having money, whether they have it or not. People who have money love the notion of having it and its privileged access to things and experiences and places and other people, and they don't want to give that up. And people who have no money love the idea of being able to do that. I once asked Lou Gossett. Now, please again, hear what I'm saying and not what you believe I'm saying. I need you to clearly hear what I'm saying. I was privileged to be in an audience where Lou Gossett was speaking on behalf of Alex Haley, who was supposed to have been the guest but was ill and unable to show up. And so Lou Gossett is making a presentation. And obviously this is the time when Roots has just come on the American scene, and people are having conversations about tracing roots and engaging people. It's a really big conversation. So a number of students where I was an undergrad at Kentucky State University, we all got together, pooled our resources, and we went to hear Lou Gossett speak. And when the time for questions and answers came, I stood to ask Mr. Gossett, I said, look, if the reality in America is that white people have been the problem for black people for 400 years, why do you think that black people have decided to take on the value system of the people they regard the enemy? Please hear what I'm saying and not what you think I'm saying. There's nothing racist over here. This is historical reality, and I'm sharing with you a personal experience that ties into this message I want you to hear, that starts with this notion of haves and have-nots, of privileged and not privileged, and the kind of scenario that we have going on here. And I'm saying to you today that unless we get involved with each other, we may recognize it's too late after it's too late. Am I a doomsday prophet? No way. I'm saying to you, these are the dynamics that have the opportunity to happen if we don't get involved with people. Here's what Lou Gossett said to me. Lou Gossett said, and he went into his whole acting demeanor, and I despised the response. He got into this whole acting demeanor as if he was a child of Elysium, a black child growing up in the South, and he said, it's an awful thing to be a poor little black child in the valley. And you look up on yonder's hill and you see little white children playing out behind their big house on their swings and with their toys, and you just want to have the same things that they have. Listen to me. I despise the response then, I despise the response now, and I take you to how I raised my children. When my children would say to me, Dad, I want these things because other children have them and it looks like they're feeling good and having fun by them, I would never support helping them have those kinds of things. I would never help support my children having things that other children had just because they had them and they wanted to be like them. However, if my children brought to me ideas that they wanted me to support that were genuinely theirs and gave them an authentic experience to develop something they wanted to develop, I was all in. Do you hear me? I was all in. I do not believe in trying to be like other people just to be like them. It denies your authenticity and the creative being that God has created you to be. You said to God, you didn't get this right. I need to improve upon it. I want to be like that person over there who's got more stuff. This got nothing to do with color. This is all about a value system. It doesn't matter what color you are in America now. Everybody wants this stuff because it looks like life is better if you got more stuff. Now, look, if you have money, you do have more access to medical care, nutrition, educational experiences that the mainstream do not have. I am thankful for your achievement. I validate your privilege to have earned it and use it in ways that you see fit, but every way that you can discover to help people who've been left behind, I encourage you, I almost beg you to consider doing that. Elysium. All right. Now, so how are we going to tie in this notion of the living experience of Stevie Ray Vaughan? Probably one of the most significant blues guitarists ever. Black, white, whatever. You think about Carlos Santana, and you talk about Eric Clapton, and you talk about B.B. King. These are the great ones, but Stevie Ray Vaughan was dominant. And all of them, they didn't bow down to him, but they respected him at the highest level. Stevie Ray Vaughan died in a plane crash. And he said to his photographer, Robert Knight, listen, if anything should ever happen to me, essentially, listen for my voice. You'll know me when you hear me. And I thought about that, and I could hear this text of Jesus come alive in me one more time. Stevie Ray Vaughan, blues guitarist, extraordinaire, probably the greatest that ever lived, says to his photographer, who did photography like Stevie Ray played blues. Are you hearing me? Robert Knight did photography like Stevie Ray played blues guitar. And so he said to his photographer, listen, if anything should ever happen to me, we don't know whether he was being prophetic or not, he did wind up dying in a plane crash. And so this impressed upon Robert Knight a mission for his life, that he had to be open and listening and eyes open and seeing for the coming again of Stevie Ray. What voices are you listening to? Whose voice are you hearing? Whose voice are you following? Are you online with your life? Are you engaged in your life? Are you going somewhere? Are you part of a whole being? Are you part of a whole community? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing with your life? What voices are you listening to? And I know you got a bunch of voices in your head. I know. And I'm not trying to cast upon you any mental illness or demon possession. No, I'm not talking about that at all. Everybody, when they get down to it, if they're willing to tell the truth, they hear lots of stuff in their head that they didn't order up. When you got stuff going on in your head that you know you didn't order up, you need to change the channels in your head. Snap. You don't want to think about that anymore. But if you let those tapes play, they'll occupy more airtime in your head. Your mind is yours. You ought to control it. All right, listening to me today. All right. So we talked about Elysium, and we talked about Stevie Ray leaving this commission to his photographer friend. If anything should ever happen to me, listen for my voice. You will know me when you hear me. And then we hear this text of Jesus as he's talking to his circle of friends, followers, disciples around, and he's talking about sheep, and sheep are metaphor for members of the community, the body of Christ, the church. And I know that it has a lot of connotations in our time. But literally the community of God, the family of God, the nation of God on earth, the church, are people who are gathered together around the ideas that Jesus modeled for us, that God gave to be given to us, that declare that we should love God, love ourselves, and others like we love ourselves. Are you hearing me? I hope you are. So Jesus is talking to them and saying, listen, the sheep know the voice of the shepherd. The sheep know the voice of the one who's taking care of them and leading them in ways that they can get provisions and have a good living experience. They don't just respond to anybody's voice. They don't just respond to anybody's voice. But anybody else who comes and they use their voice, the sheep are not going to respond to them because that voice is not the voice of their shepherd. Are you hearing me? Now, we're caught up in a dynamic time when there are lots of religions across the earth. Not knocking them. Hear me. I literally believe that people generally are living out their lives the best way they know how to date, and are seeking to have relationship with that which is greater than all of us, themselves and each other, and we struggle to find best ways to do that, to live without experiencing conflict all the time, especially violent conflict. What voice are you listening to? And so the religions of the earth seek to have a relationship with the divine. Up, down. This vertical relationship with Creator and self, and then horizontally with others who share this living experience with us. of them. Kind of see a cross here? You see a cross here? The only thing standing in the middle of that is the teaching of the shepherd, whose voice we need to know. And the shepherd says, listen, just because everybody's not in this neighborhood fold don't mean they're out. So don't get carried away thinking you are supremacist and exclusive because of who you think you are, because of what you believe you've heard me say. My sheep know my voice. And my voice doesn't encourage anybody to be better than anybody else. My voice does not encourage anybody to be better than anybody else. My voice suggests to you that out of relationship together and with me and with God, all are provided for. All can live well. No one is to exploit the other. No one is to harm the other. Are you hearing me today? Jesus says, my sheep hear my voice. What do people hear when you speak? Are you someone who's just trying to get to Elysium and leave all the other poor broke people behind and forget about them? Or are you someone who is living out a blessed experience and dedicated to helping others help themselves? Are you someone who comes out of an experience that has been poor and broke, but you are scratching your way to achievement because you won't be denied the opportunity to achieve? My brothers and sisters, as I finish today, I want to encourage you to do this one thing. Make some new friends and build some new relationships before it's too late for you. Nobody's to be praised or blamed for the past. It's done. Learn from it. Everybody. Nobody's to be praised or blamed for the past. It is done. What lessons we can extrapolate, pull out from the past, we need to take them and build on them. Make some friends and build some new relationships with people who are different. We are but one fold, whether we know it or not. Make some new friends. Men, make new quality friendships and relationships with women from the level of mutual respect and not use and abuse. Are you hearing me today? If you are a person who's been privileged, I don't care what color you are, if you've been a person who's been privileged, find a way to help someone who is scratching out, trying to find their way to achievement, achieve. Help them accomplish their dreams. Make it your dream to help someone else's dream become real. This last word, if you are content to live on Elysium, there is some poor broken-hearted soul who's dedicated to destroying what you have. Because both of your experiences are so radically different, there's no middle ground. There is have and there is have not. And when the masses of people feel exploited, they will find a way to achieve, by almost any means accessible to them, ways to take or destroy what you produce. I'm not saying that's good. That is obviously not good. But desperate people do desperate things. Why don't we save ourselves all that conflict and all that pain and all that needless sacrifice of life? Why don't we just intentionally seek out ways to make some new friends and build some new relationships? And it does mean, Star Trek used to call the invisible line where people don't come any further than the neutral zone. Some of us have to be willing to invade the neutral zone. It may not be safe at first, but you come with hands open, not fists closed. Come with hands open, declaring, I would like to know you. I would like to learn what you've learned. I don't want to take what you've produced. I'd like to learn what you've learned. Maybe I can reproduce that where I am. I don't need to come and live in your space and come to dinner and get into all that mushy mess. No, I want to be able to produce more for myself and my family and my community. And I believe you have the capacity to help me with information and a process. Now that's what the people who have not must be willing to do. Must be willing to engage the neutral zone, go across the dividing line, and ask for that kind of help. And the people on the other side of privilege must be willing to enter the neutral zone to the other side and say, I am so thankful to be able to achieve and live as my family has produced and community has produced for me, that I really am interested in sharing the process with any who are interested, that may be interested in achieving what we have achieved. When those two folks meet, there will be opportunity. Everybody's not going to like you because you talk, because people who are polarized in their opposite perspectives don't understand the value and the benefit of mutual relationship for mutual benefit. I am encouraging you, as Jesus encouraged those around him, pay attention to the voices that you're listening to. Jesus said his sheep know his voice and feel safe and secure and provided for. Stevie Ray Vaughan said, you will know me when you hear me. And may our future reflect that we don't have to be a child looking up from a dead earth or down from a very vital space station, but we might have developed an ecosystem habitat that would provide for the many. My brothers and sisters, thank you, and friends, thank you for joining me one more time. I'm thankful for the privilege to share with you that which I believe has been given to me. I know whose voice I'm listening for. I know what I desire to give. I know love is the mission that's given to me. Everybody doesn't want to be loved, and everybody certainly doesn't want my love. But those of us who are intentional about our loving, we have opportunity to build a better world, one relationship at a time. Jesus said, everybody's not of this fold, but guess what? They too hear my voice, and we're all coming together to be one sheepfold. May God bless you and keep you until next time. I'm Oscar Crawford. This was the teaching ministry of New Eden.